Caitlin Clark had a BYU idol growing up. Here's who the WNBA star watched as a kid. Caitlin Clark is one of the most famous athletes in the world right now. But before Clark set records on the court, she was watching BYU hoops in her living room. The WNBA star, known for her deep range and step-back threes, learned part of her game from a cougar. And she kept a memento of her fandom with her. "I always had a step-back three. It is kind of hard to put my finger on where I learned it. I grew up a basketball junkie. Even if you are not intentionally mimicking, you are just absorbing what you are consuming. I always watched Steph, Curry, or even Jimmer, who I love," Clark said on WNBA legend Sue Bird's Bird's Eye View podcast. Jimmer Fredette led BYU to the Sweet 16 and won National Player of the Year in 2011. During that time, he became a national sensation similar to Clark for a 2-year period as he sold out areas with his mix of deep threes and flair. It became known as Jimmermania as people made songs and shirts for the BYU star. Clark was among those participating. "I told Jimmer this when we were doing the ESPN show, Sue's Places. He was one of my favorite players growing up. There was the famous song Teach Me How to Jimmer, and I had the shirt that said Teach Me How to Jimmer. If you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube," Clark said. "It is a Teach Me How to Dougie remix." When it was suggested Clark get her shirt signed by Fredette, she winced with regret. Rhiann Wilkinson explains why Olivia Smith could become the Caitlin Clark of women's football. Wales head coach Rhiann Wilkinson has explained how world record signing Olivia Smith could have a similar impact on women's football as Caitlin Clark has had on women's basketball. Wilkinson saw her Wales side compete in their first ever major women's international tournament at Euro 2025 last month. During the tournament, Wilkinson's Canadian compatriot Smith made history with her transfer from Liverpool to Arsenal. The 21-year-old became the first £1 million player in women's football history. In an exclusive interview with SheKicks, Wilkinson drew a striking comparison between Smith and American basketball star Clark and the influence they could have on women's sport. How Olivia Smith could become the Caitlin Clark of women's football. Rhiann Wilkinson says a new generation of players, including Olivia Smith, can take women's football to new heights just as Caitlin Clark has done in the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA. The Wales coach reflected on the pioneers of women's football who played without the financial rewards seen today and how Smith and other emerging stars can become the new face of professionalism for the sport. She said, "I think we've had phenomenal ambassadors for the game already, women who have not been paid and who have built the game and put it where it is. Now it's that generation, the Caitlin Clarks for the WNBA and then the Olivia Smiths for football. But equally all these incredible young talents that we just saw at the Euros coming through who will be the new face of the professionalism of it." Wilkinson previously coached Smith during her time working in the youth ranks of the Canadian national team. The Wales head coach told SheKicks she's someone who from a very early age was very clear on what she wanted and is willing to go for it. "Always been one of those players you've had to pull off the park and keep an eye on because she's always trying to do extra and try to make her understand rest is important too. She has earned everything that she's getting right now, and it's not a fluke. It's not luck. This is a young person who is dedicated to her craft and is being rightfully lauded for where she's at in the game and the boundaries she is pushing. So I'm happy for her." Rhiann Wilkinson hails frightening growth of women's football. Wales head coach Rhiann Wilkinson hailed the rapid rise of the women's game after Arsenal made Olivia Smith the first £1 million player. With more money entering the sport, Wilkinson said there is a clear shift in the professionalism of women's football. She said the exponential growth of the women's game is frightening. "If you watched footage from the 1960s and 70s of the men's game and look at where it's at now, it's night and day. The women's game was banned then, to where it is now it's on such an incredible growth trajectory." Wilkinson added that young players coming through today will have a completely different football experience from the one she had as a player. She also compared the change in women's football to the transformation Arsène Wenger brought to Arsenal in the 1990s. Arsène Wenger was the only who really transitioned from, yes, they were professional but previously had a semi-professional mindset in how they treated nutrition, their health, everything around the sport. And that's where we're at in the women's game, and that's what this new generation like Olivia Smith will do. They will transition the game to the very elite level. Despite its growing popularity, the women's game still faces detractors, particularly on social media, where figures such as Joey Barton post frequent criticism. Wilkinson had a simple message for them: the women's game is not going anywhere. She added, "I think detractors are wasting their time. It's a different game. You enjoy it if you want to, and if you don't, then don't watch it." Who is Caitlin Clark? Caitlin Clark is a 23-year-old basketball prodigy for the WNBA's Indiana Fever. The point guard rose to fame at the University of Iowa, where she became the NCAA's all-time leading goalscorer. During her final 2 years at Iowa, her games set attendance and television viewership records. The Caitlin Clark effect is a term that is often used to describe the rising popularity of women's basketball. Clark continued to set records after being drafted first by Indiana Fever in the 2024 WNBA draft. The draft itself averaged 2.45 million viewers, the most in the event's history. During her first month in the WNBA, games against the Los Angeles Sparks, 19,103, New York Liberty, 17,735, and Seattle Storm, 18,343, each set attendance records. In her rookie season, she set records for assists and three-pointers, earning All-Star honors. Off the court, her endorsements with brands like Nike have made her a global ambassador for women's basketball.